So in this video, what I wanted to talk about is sort of the death of personal branding and what is rising out from the ashes, right? I believe AI killed the hustle and accidentally created the most human business ever. So I used to run a team of 12. This is a quick sort of backstory. I had systems for everything, processes for processes. I was the guy with the 4-hour onboarding videos and the color-coded project management boards that looked like a psychedelic party. I was hustling 60 to 8-hour weeks, missing bedtime stories and coding it. I am building my empire. Today I work 3 days a week. My team is literally me, my laptop, and a handful of AI tools. My revenue is higher than it ever was. My stress is lower. And yesterday I spent 2 hours teaching my daughter how to hold a crayon and eat pear, sort of mashed fruits, right? Something fundamental shifted in me about 18 months ago. And most entrepreneurs are missing that thing completely, or at least the ones that I'm surrounded by, right? I want to call it something like the great sameness epidemic. I'm not really sure, so I'll stick with that for now. But walk into any entrepreneur's Instagram or LinkedIn feed and you will see that same movie playing on repeat over and over and over again. There's a Stripe screenshot, especially in the business coaching and consulting world. There might be like a fast car, I made 100K in 69 seconds using this trick that is in my cohort, right? Some sort of AI generated caption with a rocket emoji. I tease them on LinkedIn all the time, the bots. And it's about like mindset and crushing your goals and Jesus. Anyway, so if that is success, everyone is then using the same playbook, right? Or the same proven frameworks. I don't know what you think about the word proven, but for me, it's like Jesus. So that same stock photo, the MacBook, the marble countertop, or whatever that may be, AI was supposed to be this like great equalizer, but instead it became this great homogenizer, made everything the same, even though it's super powerful. But when everyone has access to the same content, right, content creation then becomes the same. High converting templates, haven't we seen them all online, right? Or these optimization hacks. Everything starts to sound exactly the same. So that sort of thing creates a beautiful paradox. In a world where everyone sounds like AI, being human is your only competitive advantage. At least I think so, right? And these are the things that whatever I'm sharing today is what has worked for me. So I was talking to a friend last week who runs a personal brand agency. And she told me something that literally stopped me cold. She said, Jacob, most of my clients don't actually want to be personal. They want to be profitable. So think about that for a second, right? Personal branding has become the least personal thing on the internet. I might get butchered for this, but it is a performance art. It's a highlight reel. It's like everything except the actual person. And I don't want to eavesdrop or name drop, sorry. But we've seen that, right? We've created an entire industry around teaching people to wear masks professionally. And it's sad. The baity hooks, the manufactured urgency, sort of perfectly curated, vulnerable post that's been A/B tested and somebody else has the same one, coincidentally, I was broken, now I'm not. And I lived in this basement and now I'm not, and whatever. Meanwhile, the real stories, the ones about walking your dog at 6 a.m. or struggling to figure out what to have for lunch, or the moment you realized you picked the wrong accountant and shit hit the fan. What about those? Like, don't those get a little bit buried? So what I discovered was those boring human moments are worth more than any Lambo flex in the parking lot, right? And I called this the Tuesday morning test. Do you want to know if your content is actually connecting to human beings? Try the test. go to your LinkedIn, your Facebook, your Instagram, your whatever platform you're on, and look at your last 10 posts. Could they have been written by any other person in your industry? If the answer is yes, you're failing the test. If they sound like they came from ChatGPT, you're also failing the test. If someone couldn't pick out your voice out of that lineup of your competitors, you're definitely failing the test. And the content that actually converts isn't the stuff that makes you look successful. It's the stuff that makes you look really human, right? And I started talking about my morning routine. My primary platform is LinkedIn. And I'm not going, I wake up at 4 a.m. and jump in a cold plunge and crush a workout, all that crap. I'm talking about stumbling to the coffee maker, checking if my daughter needs anything, sometimes eating cereal for lunch because I forgot to plan ahead. When I did that, my engagement actually tripled. And more importantly, the quality of people reaching out completely changed. Because instead of anyone with a heartbeat and a credit card, I started attracting people who saw me for what I was. People who actually got it. Runners, musicians, other parents trying to build something without sacrificing everything else. I've got a buddy and we always catch up, and it's like two dads trying to build a funnel just to live peacefully and privately, right? You're not necessarily buying coaching, you're buying me or the coach that you are looking at, right? What nobody tells you about that authentic content, and again, this is just my opinion and I'm very curious what you think, and I would love for you to hit subscribe or let me know in the comments below, because you're basically not just sharing your story, you're giving other people permission to have their story. And when you post about having a bad day, you're telling everyone who reads it that bad days are allowed. They are completely okay to have. So when you share your messy process, you're saying it's okay to have it all figured out, right? I went on LinkedIn the other day and I was like, I think I lost about 5K in the process of me changing my email sequence. I've had an email sequence for like 2 years, and something in me, some weird bug was like, go and change it. Go and change it for whatever reason to test something out. And then I stopped getting sales and I was like, what on earth did I just do? Revert back to the very thing that was working. And everyone was like, so I got some butchering, but other people were like, hey, he's human, he makes mistakes. Now, when you admit that you don't know something, you're modeling humility in a world full of these fake experts. And this isn't some like warm or fuzzy side effect. It is the entire business model. Some people might call it the permission economy. I can't remember who said that. Maybe it was Dan Coe. But vulnerability is currency. People don't need another guru telling them they're not working hard enough or they have to skip a wedding or whatever, right? They need someone who makes them feel less alone in their struggle. They don't need like another blueprint for success or some sort of, they just need someone who admits that most days they're just figuring shit out as they go. And the moment you give permission to someone to be human, they'll pay you handsomely for the privilege because you're someone who gets it. Now, I would say where it gets interesting, while everyone's debating whether AI will replace human creativity, I've been using it to actually amplify humanity. I used to spend 3 days writing a single client offer. Now I have like custom GPTs that can draft 5 different approaches in like 4 minutes, right? I used to record hours and hours of training videos. Now I can generate personalized learning paths instantly. I've got this GPT called G, the Game Plan Coach, and every time somebody joins Modern Maker, my program, it asks them where they're at, and it goes, ooh, you're a maker or you're a mover, and then it gives them a 45-day plan depending on where they are. So AI didn't replace the human elements of my business, but it eliminated everything that wasn't human. And all those hours I spent on mechanical tasks, writing emails, creating slide decks, formatting documents, that's what AI does now, which frees me up to do the only thing that humans can do, which is hold space like right now in this video, listen deeply to my client on the call, share a story, build genuine connection like human to human, and guide people through their own transformation, right? The robots are handling robots' work, which leaves me free to be gloriously, messily, profitably human. And it's such a beautiful place to be if you think about it, because I don't like the term building an empire. It's sort of like a one-person thing, but it is where the real magic happens, right? I went from like managing 12 people to managing 0, from like endless Slack notifications to really deep focused work, from being everybody's boss to being nobody's boss. And my overhead literally went to 97%. It dropped by 97. Like profit margins are nuts because all I have is a bunch of tools. So my stress levels plummeted, my profit margins soared, contextually speaking and truthfully speaking. But the most important change is I get to show up as myself, not as the CEO version of myself, right? As the artist, I feel more like an artist. You can see there's like guitars behind me. I was a musician, always studied it, did it, lived it, embodied it. When you don't have to manage other people's interpretations of your vision, you can focus entirely on serving your people in the most authentic way. And I always see audience as leverage because they are your community, whether they're in your paying community or out. They are your assets. They are your leads, your customers, your clients, your diehard people, right? When you don't have to maintain that sort of corporate culture, you can just be who you are. And people buy who you are before they buy what you do. When you don't have to justify your decisions to a board or a team, you can move fast, right? And just follow your intuition. So the one-person business isn't just more profitable. In my eyes, it is more human, right? And it is life by design, not life by default. So what I hear, we coin successful entrepreneurs. They built businesses, though, that own them, not the other way around. They become like prisoners in their own little golden handcuffs. And I say this from a place where I felt exactly that, 2021, 22, 23. Running companies that demand their presence for every decision, every crisis, every opportunity. And I know because I was one of them. That 12-person team I had, or the 7-person team that I had actually for the longest time, wasn't just overhead. It was responsibility as an anchor. Like every person on payroll was a monthly commitment that required me to show up, whether I wanted to or not. And, one of the hardest moments was me when I decided to let them go. And I was not letting go because they had a family, right? Because they had this, they had that. And it was what it was at the time. But every client was a fire that I had to put out personally. And I maybe wasn't made up for leading teams, and that's completely okay. And in this video, I am only sharing my own experience. There's other people that absolutely crush having teams and being that CEO and embodying that. To me, it was a bottleneck with my name on it. And I was successful by every metric that matters to other people, in the books, in the KPIs, in the revenue, and all of that. But I was failing at the only metric that actually mattered to me. And that metric was designing a life I actually wanted to live. Damn. Yeah. So the shift happened when I stopped asking, how can I scale this business? It started when I started asking, how can I design this business to serve my life? Instead of building bigger, I built smarter. Instead of hiring like more people, I automated more of my own processes. And instead of chasing every opportunity, I started attracting the right opportunity. And the goal isn't to build a unicorn. I'm not there for that. The goal is to build a life. So I know this may come out as like anti-ambition or like anti-stupidity, or it's none of that. And it's silly to sacrifice your health, your relationships, your sanity for a business that might not even exist in 5 years' time. Right? For me, like my North Star switched. It became helping people move from hustle to flow, right? To make money on easy mode, give them a model that is possible to live. And it's not for everyone, right? For me, there's like a really strong pull towards understanding that hustle culture sold us a lie. The success that requires suffering, right? That if you're not grinding 24/7, you're not serious about winning. And I did grind. I did lose weekends and I did push, and I'm grateful. Like, I don't regret that, but I could have done it differently in hindsight. You know, the most successful people I know today aren't the ones who are working the most hours. They're the ones who figured out how to work the right hours on the right things with the right people. And they're the ones who built the businesses that compound by building leverage. Like, I'm a big fan of Naval Ravikant and his book and his philosophy on leverage. And, you know, they're the ones who chose lifestyle design over lifestyle sacrifice. They're not just making money, they're making meaning, right? And I want to tell you something that may disappoint you, but I don't have a morning routine that will change your life. I never had a secret framework that guarantees success. I don't have a blueprint you can copy to get my own results. But what I have is a way of thinking about business that prioritizes humanity over optimization, connection, not the whole conversion thing, and meaning, not a scoreboard of metrics. And I have a commitment to showing up as myself, even if it's not the most strategic version of myself. I have a belief that the best businesses are built by people who refuse to choose between profit and presence, between success and sanity. And I'm not trying to be your guru, I'm trying to be your reminder that there is another way. And it's probably like the first time I speak out like that, but it has been sort of in there for me. And I firmly believe we are that generation that can rewrite the rules. We don't have to choose between technology and humanity. We don't have to like sacrifice our values for our bank accounts. We don't have to pretend to be someone else to build something that is meaningful to us, right? We can use AI to handle the mundane so we can focus on what is magical to us. We can build businesses that serve our lives instead of consume our lives. And we can make money by being ourselves, not by performing a version of ourselves. Like, I'm going to say that again. We can make that money by being ourselves, not by performing a version of ourselves. Because to me, that's what a modern maker really is. And we make businesses that actually matter, right? We make connections that last. We make lives that feel like our own. And we do it without like asking for permission from anyone who thinks they're the only way to win, right? Well, what was I going to say? Like, while everyone else is trying to optimize their way to the top, we're going to human our way there. It's plainly put. Like, they're split testing subject lines. We're sharing real stories. They're launching like fake scarcity timers. We're building like authentic abundance. They're trying to scale everything. We're just trying to savor everything. And the future doesn't belong to the biggest companies or the smartest algorithms, in my opinion. It belongs to the most human humans. You know, the ones who remember that business is ultimately about people serving, the ones who choose connection over that competition, and the ones who build something that matters, not build something that just sells. So if that resonated with you, if you're tired of playing someone else's game by someone else's rules, if you're ready to build something that serves your life instead of consuming it, then maybe you too are a modern maker, and I'm not crazy after all, right? And maybe it's time we started building the future we actually want to live in, right? I don't want to sell anything. I just felt the urge to sort of say this. So, you know, I will drop some links in the comments below. If you want to hit subscribe or give me a like or give me your opinion, I would really appreciate it, because at the end of the day, the best businesses aren't built by entrepreneurs. They're built by humans. Peace. I will see you in the next video.